Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Welcome to Gnosis. Well, do you have caveman thinking? The problem is most people really do, and I'm going to explain what caveman thinking is here in a second. But let's look at some classic text here from Lord Industries out of the late 80s, maybe the 90s. Their little Alpha Pro 6 dial. Nice metal cabinet. Workmanship is pretty good. In general here, it had a pacer on it, which was kind of a gimmick, but in the late 80s, 90s, it was kind of cool. A GSR meter, which is interesting. So for a little unit, this had a lot packed into it, and I believe they were relatively reasonable. They weren't expensive cost factors. Another one of those industries that go under. They were fairly active. I understand that maybe a divorce or other things cause problems, but a nice metal case, 6 dials, which really you can't do much of anything with. It did have, activation buttons. It has your sample well and your well played. They put sample, what you're basically witness, in out plate. I don't know why people want to use different names to confuse people. So a nice little unit. I'm going to be selling this. If you're interested, drop me a line and I will give you a price on this. I'm going through all my old equipment, so it's a great time to get some really fabulous stuff. But first, what do the Face have in store for you? You have a question? You have a problem? Well, your answer is here.
You come seeking your fortune, as many have before. Some live, others have died. What will your fate hold? Let us see. I have consulted the spirits. They have blessed you with the answer. It is yes, but it shall not last for long.
Oh, wisdom of the ages. Okay, let's talk about 8-man thinking. Now, life is really your understanding of it and you rising above the pigsty you live in, isolating yourself from the vermin who are your family, your teachers, your neighbors, etc. All of these people are there to basically move you away from Gnosis into self-destruction and reincarnation. You're going to constantly come back here, and that's exactly what they want. So, and of course, you're not going to get anywhere. This certainly is the hell plane. If you want to stay here for any reason whatsoever, well, you're pretty foolish because everything dissipates. You're basically lucky if you get 86 productive years here, and generally, as you reach that 86, you become feeble and are getting ready to die. Before that, you don't really have much freedom or to do anything. Your first 18 years, you're a slave to your parents. You have no legal rights whatsoever. So there we go, knocking down your functionality in society. And then, of course, even though when you're 18, you really have no skills, no abilities, and really can't make your own money. So you then have to go back to these slave brainwashing institutions called colleges. And then when you get out of college, at 22, 24, depending on what it is, you're going to most likely get a bad job making mediocre money. This is what most people run into. Unless you're a fortunate one whose daddy takes care of you and you go to Ivy League schools where you're guaranteed the income of one way or another. So these are the type of things that we have to understand in the bigger picture of the way the world works. In the end, even if you are successful and all those toys you collected, those houses, etc., are going to be the stomping domains of somewhere else. Just watch a few estate sales on YouTube. That's what happens to your stuff. People come in and will grab your stuff for pennies on the dollar. And that's it. So that's what your life is going to look like. Pretty sad, because everything physical dissipates and rots away. And to think that you're just going to live what is basically a life that you think is good based on somebody else's belief systems, otherwise known as religion, and you're going to go to the big party in the sky, well, that's another delusional thought. You escape and you rise above it through consciousness and through wisdom. Now, caveman thinking is another thing that keeps our society in the toilet. The problem is, if you were to be given the best of something, would you know it? So the example I give is the caveman. Now, the caveman needs weapons to hunt and protect himself, kind of like today. And you give him two tools. One is a perfectly made spear out of common materials, but something that will be much better than the primitive spear he has of today. Next to that is a well-made, fine hunting rifle with plenty of ammunition. Which one do you think the caveman would pick? Well, here's what happens. Well, the caveman, of course, looks at it and says, well, I can't make head nor tails of this other thing. I have no idea, but this looks like a really good spear. But on the other hand, maybe this has some value that I'm unaware of. Well, that was the worst thing he could possibly say about the well-made gun. So the tribe came to him, the elders, the priests, the deviants, the big ugly ones, the tiny goofy ones, all came to him and said, well, that's not what we know. We know that this is similar to what we have and will work. And you should not be getting involved in this, what we consider even demonic structure here. Well, what is this strange stuff? It seems to be evil. I don't see how it could possibly do anything. So the pressure of the tribe told him not to get the better of the two tools. The tribe even took it further, saying that if you get that new demonic tool, we will ostracize you. We will attack you. You will no longer be part of this tribe. You do what we tell you to do. You conform. You go with what we know with, what we're sure of, and you will then be able to have some position in this tribe, and we'll decide upon that later. Sound familiar? So the whole idea is the elder talking could be considered a guy like Sean Carroll, the great communicating physicist who wants to act like he's some sort of philosopher now. But he represents the filth of common science and society that we have today, the backward thinking, the closed-mindedness, etc. So the point is that the not having the knowledge or understanding or even being able to interpret what is good makes you follow the garbage that has been presented to you as the best workable and what is accepted commonly. Now, we see that in all of society, that this is the actual case. So, everybody fights anything that is new. They stamp their feet, they scream and yell, they say this will never work, it is worthless. The second stage is they condemn you, and ultimately the third stage is, if it is something that is workable, they accept it as the best thing that is there. So this is how fickle, crazy, and bizarre your common society is. So caveman thinking generally rules this world, and of course there's complications there. I'm sure the guy who makes spears within that tribe didn't want to have something that he couldn't make. So his financial support in that tribe is under question, because if we get something he can't make, he certainly isn't going to learn how to make it. He isn't inquisitive enough to work with the better stuff and then bring the tribe up. No, he's worried about feeding his own mouth and getting his own way within the tribe. That's how society works, and that's why society never works right. So this is what happens, and I've ran into this in many, many situations. People have no idea what is good, what is quality on any level whatsoever. And after time, when they get garbage, they rationalize and how good the garbage is. Then they're going to get supports from the rest of the tribe because everybody has gotten that garbage, probably for price or something else. So they all rationalize what a fantastic car that is or product. Now, I mentioned car there because this is the scenario that really happened in the middle 1970s, with people getting particularly Volkswagen Beetles that basically were extremely cheap cars. And they were cheap cars for a reason. They were garbage. And I've had people argue, and I'm sure there's some Volkswagen Beetle people today that are going to tell me what a fantastic car those old Beetles were from the 70s and even prior to that. Many of these have probably come from the 60s. But all the poor white trash that grew up in the suburbs where I grew up rationalized that this was a great car because that was all they could afford. And proving if a car is really a piece of trash is they made statements like, it's so easy to work on. You can change the motor yourself. Well, when you get into big, more complicated cars, this was very difficult to do. But who wants to be working on cars? Who wants to be changing the motors? But that was the mentality back then with cars, etc. This is one of the worst cars ever made. And of course, it was made very inexpensively in itself. Basically, it was a skate a roller skate, I should say. Basically, is how it was modeled after. The bottom line is the whole design of that car, which of course was kind of designed by Adolf Hitler, who stole it from someone else, and that person did sue in the courts to get the rights back to that car, which was fashioned after it. So stupid minds out there think alike. So the whole idea is that we have to understand that this water cooled, so that way it's another way that you cut down on the cost of things. There's no water pump in it, so there's no radiator. This saves you a lot of money and makes construction or assembly of that car very quick and easy. It was basically just a piece of aluminum under your feet or steel or whatever it was. Those used to rust out all the time. It was really like being on a roller skate with a motor. The front was empty, of course, because the rear engine drive of this was where the motor was. Again, that's where you put your junk in, but certainly you didn't have it. The seats were like being on a bus seat. Hard as a rock. Your nose was pressed up against the windshield, and of course, none of the fans were powered enough inside, so you constantly were in a dangerous situation trying to defog your windows. And of course, the underpowered heater didn't do much in the winter either, but it was cheap. So, what developed out of this is there were catalogs where you could buy just about anything to upgrade that piece of junk. So huge catalogs, 500-600 pages. You could change this, you could change that because of the popularity of something that was inferior and bad, but it was affordable by the person and it kind of worked. So this is all part of caveman thinking, of how caveman thinking goes from a bad level to even a worse level. And of course, that's how life works. I'm always amazed how people buy inferior products and accept them, saying it's good, that's what it's all about. And of course, this means that manufacturers can keep building the worst junk that they possibly can, cut all the corners, because after all, you're going to accept it anyway. And this, of course, is the whole reality of it. So caveman thinking with the pressure of the tribe, because they're ignorant jerks that know nothing. They don't know what's good. They can't figure out what's good, and they're certainly not going to learn what's good. Enslave and destroy the entire culture. And if you're somebody who stands out and say, no, I don't want that stupid spear. I've got something here that is much, much better. You, of course, are taking the road against society, against God, against everything that is good and decent in that caveman society. So you become ostracized, attacked, criticized, and possibly even murdered because you didn't go along with the tribe. And that's how life works. I hope everybody has understood that. Until next time.